Unclean! She is unclean.
You're not unclean.
Oh,
Right.
unclean!
Silence.
The clean and unclean reality in Torah specifically is mainly connected with the tabernacle or the temple, and most of Yeshua's ministry is actually in the Galilee.
Right.
And so, but what's happening at this time, you have the Pharisees who were trying to actually take the Levitical purity laws and say that these purity laws are for everyone. And they're trying to say, hey, this is a requirement, extra biblical, if you will. Like, this is for everyone, and you need to be living this way. Actually, they connect it even with, it's kind of like their eschatology. It's hey, if we can all remain in this pure, then the Messiah will come, or something like that.
Right.
But in reality, they kind of treat it like sin, but it's actually not sinful to be impure and unclean.
Right.
I mean, it is in your heart.
Yeah.
And that's what Yeshua's trying to bring out over and over, but it's actually not a sin to be unclean. But people would oftentimes get treated as if they were a sinner because they were unclean. But the reality is to remain ritually clean all the time. Most people
Real hard.
were in a state of impurity, because there were a lot of rules and even extra biblical rules that they were adding to it. So
I mean, from what I know, they had to be clean in order to do things in the temple or tabernacle. It's like to approach the Lord or to make sacrifices. They had to be ritually clean, so that you're not bringing judgment upon yourself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so much of the laws in the Torah about the ritual purity laws are physical manifestations that the Lord's trying to help connect with inward spiritual realities.
Right.
It's kind of like baptism, where baptism is this physical manifestation that's supposed to be representing this inner reality that's happening. So the Lord is using these purity laws to help set Israel apart, right? To say, and specifically the priests, right? And some of the Levites to, hey, if you're going to approach me, you need a pure heart. And so these physical purity laws, external purity laws, are to help us or help them approach him and to help your heart, actually. Right. So to take a public baptism is a big deal. Historically, I think of even Jewish believers today to take baptism is a big deal. In the Jewish community, it's a statement, and you would only do that outward sign if there was something happening here. For sure. So the Lord's trying to connect the physical and the spiritual because that's who He is in that sense too. So
I like where you're going there, because the Lord's all about the heart. And so you're bringing it back to the heart over and over again. And so it's like these are outward things, but the condition of the heart is so important, which he's all about.
Circumcision of the heart.
Right. And so and he's all about that from the beginning of the story throughout the end of the story.
Yeah, the first use of circumcision of the heart is actually in the Torah.
Right.
So it's something that takes place in the New Covenant, but he desired that from the very beginning.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, I don't just desire sacrifices, right? He wants us to have clean hands and a pure heart. So it's the same story throughout. It's just that we get this huge, massive help with the empowerment of the Holy Spirit in order to do that. So, and that helps bring in the nations into the family when the nations don't have this this rootedness and don't have a clue about what it even means to follow the one true God.
Right.
I think the ritual purity laws are a good way to realize that God is a holy God. He is other than, and to approach him, to love him, to follow him, there is a certain way that he wants that to be done.
It's true, absolutely.
And it's not just like, I love you, Lord, and so I'm just going to do whatever I want to follow you and love you.
Not how it works.
Which is part of people's story today, that they
Right.
think that's what it means to follow God. No, he has a particular way that he wants us to follow him.
That's good.
And it depends on who you are. Depends on if you're Jewish, depends on if you're Gentile, male, female, what your calling is, right? So this is about God has a particular way that he wants to be worshiped and he wants to be loved. And the Bible is the way that he teaches us that.
Exactly.
It's like he has given us the scriptures to say, this is the way I want you to live. This is the way you're to approach me. This is the way you're to be holy as I am holy.
Yep.
So we don't just get to do whatever way we want. That's not how it works.
Right. And which involves, and if you look at like even the Sermon on the Mount, it involves our relationship with him, but it's also heavily involved with our relationship with one another.
Right.
Because you can't treat your brother like garbage and then come and worship before the Lord.
Right.
That's not how this thing works.
Yeah.
Right. Just as an example
Yeah.
of like one way to approach the holy God.
Yeah, and you could actually argue that by this Pharisaic approach of putting all the purity laws onto everyone, they're actually going for this homogeneity calling, aren't they?
Right.
It's not this
interesting.
unity with distinction reality, is it?
No.
They're saying, oh, we're all the same, and there aren't these distinctions. But that's actually not what the Torah teaches. The Torah actually has different commandments for the Levites and different commandments for the priests. So this unity with distinction calling is actually within Israel herself, where the Issacharites, they had different commandments of the Torah that they were to follow. They didn't have to follow the priestly laws,
Right.
Because they weren't priests,
Right. Yeah.
So this principle then applies to Jew and Gentile, where we all have different callings, and it's just based on who he created us to be.
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to invite you to come to our biblical tour and cruise of Greece and Turkey. We're going to follow in the footsteps of Paul the Apostle and John the Revelator. We're actually going to take a 2-day cruise, and we're going to go to the Greek islands, including Patmos, where John had his amazing encounter with God, and he wrote the book of Revelation. Then we're going to also go to Greece and follow in Paul's footsteps. We're going to go to the different biblical cities of the epistles, including the Corinthians, the Ephesians, the Philippians, and the Thessalonians. We're going to go to ancient synagogues and ancient churches and ancient monasteries and so much more. You don't want to miss it. Please go to grafted.family/tours, and you can sign up. You can see the full itinerary, and please sign up soon because the first payment is due April 15th. So join me on my biblical tour to Greece and Turkey. If you like our videos, please help us spread a biblical Messianic worldview by donating to Grafted. Bah! Bah! You got the humor, didn't you?
Is it a buh or is it a vuh?